Hi, it's Chelsey from Shift OHS. I'm excited to share with you our latest video series, Perspectives of a Professional. In this series, we will be interviewing experts and professionals from a variety of industries who will share their perspectives on topics relating to worker fitness for duty and occupational health and safety. In the first installment, we'll be speaking with Scott Heil of To Be Sure Substance Abuse Professionals. Scott has been operating as a substance abuse professional for Shift OHS for the past 3 years. As a subcontracted SAP, or substance abuse professional, he provides quality substance abuse assessments for our employers so that they can support troubled workers or assess workers who've had a positive drug or alcohol test. Though Scott resides in Saskatchewan, he provides assessments virtually to workers across Canada. This first interview was conducted via Zoom, so there is a bit of lag from time to time in the video. So just be aware of that as you watch. Enjoy!
All right, so we're officially recording, but again, doesn't really matter because we can cut out anything we like.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're here today with Scott Heil of To Be Sure Substance Abuse Professionals, getting to know a little bit more about the substance abuse professional role and substance abuse assessments for Canadian workplaces. So welcome, Scott.
Well, yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Chelsey. How are you doing?
Doing really good today. And yourself?
Yeah, pretty decent. The sun's shining here, so thanks for asking me on, and hopefully we can have some fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've been working together for, 3 or 4 years now, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and we have had fantastic feedback about the services you provide, for our companies who maybe have troubled workers or who have workers who've had positive drug or alcohol tests. So we thought it'd be great to get to know you a bit better and get to learn a little bit more about your role and what you do.
Yeah, thanks. That's sounds like a plan. Let's get at her.
All right. So I guess, what our viewers might like to know is just a little bit more about you, in terms of your experience, your training, and of course, a bit more about you personally. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so personally, I guess, married, happily married most days. 2 kids. I got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, dog and a cat. What else could I tell personally? Been a lifelong Cincinnati Bengals fan, so
Okay.
I do take a lot of flack from my friends for that. So
I bet.
been a lot of losing years, but what I tend to tell my friends is, anybody can cheer for a winning team, but cheering for a losing team tends to build a lot of character. So that's what I tell them. That's what I'm going to run with. So
absolutely. Well, I don't want to make you feel bad, but I've actually never even heard of that team. So that tells you how popular they really are.
Yeah, so they could stand to win a little bit more in the future, so it wouldn't be bad. So professionally, so my education, so I would have a psychology degree.
Okay.
And then I have certifications. I'm a Canadian certified alcohol and drug counselor. I'm an internationally certified alcohol and drug counselor, and have some specialized certification through the U.S. Department of Transportation as a qualified substance abuse professional. So I've worn a few hats over the years, right? So in the public sector, I've worked, about 20 years experience in residential inpatient, outpatient, community and hospital settings. And in the private world, I've been providing safety sensitive services to employers across industry for about the last 7 years, I believe. So, I've been really lucky to have a really good mentor. Brenda Hearn, she's been doing private work for over 30 years. And I'm really grateful to have had her guidance and help over the years, kind of increasing my skills in these areas. So
nice.
Yeah.
You work with employers in a variety of sectors, right? Like oil and gas, construction, transportation.
Yeah. So, typically transportation, mining, construction, manufacturing, but yeah, really across industry, some of this kind of grows and people learn more about this stuff. Basically safety sensitive employers across all industry, really. So, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, there are a lot of employers who are having employees who have positive drug or alcohol tests, or, workers who may come forward as having an issue or a potential issue with drugs or alcohol. Why should employers care about or require employees to complete substance abuse assessments?
Well, so a lot of reasons, but I think what COVID maybe has kind of taught us is that the world is rapidly evolving, and in the area of substance misuse and workplace safety, that is no difference. There's a lot of room for growth in these areas that employers may not know about. So it's just good to get the resources out there, and the options for employers that they may not know about. Another good reason, obviously, is that it is the employer's responsibility, as you know, to provide a safe workplace and to
Absolutely.
ensure the safety of the workplace. You know, how a good example of that is, I don't know if there's any landlords out there, but as a landlord myself, that landlord versus tenant relationship, we'd like to believe that when crap hits the fan, that tenants are going to be responsible and things like that and liable. But really, what I've learned over the years is that it's always the landlord. And if you kind of use that as an example for safety sensitive employers, that's kind of the same way, right? When the crap hits the fan, it's the employer's responsibility to ensure these things, and generally they're the ones that are liable. So another good reason that employers may be concerned about their bottom line, right? And protecting money as well. And so I can't think of other ways to do that effectively other than making sure that your workplace is safe and productive, because that's going to help your bottom line too. And the last reason I guess I can think of is that employers may be looking for ways to get more information and options to help them manage these situations, and frameworks to guide employee help or discipline legally.
Absolutely.
So there's a few options, I guess, as to why they might be interesting to employers.
Definitely. Yeah. And for me, from the service provider perspective, I think utilizing a professional like yourself to complete these substance abuse assessments, ensures that the employer is getting information from a professional, right? Somebody who is trained in dealing with substance use and misuse, and who also understands the nature of a safety sensitive workplace, right? I mean, I have employers sometimes who reach out to me and say, well, we've had this worker who had a positive drug or alcohol test, and we would like to just put them on a return to duty agreement with some follow-up testing. And my recommendation always to them is that should be driven by a substance abuse professional, right? Somebody who can, provide a clinical impression or a diagnosis of that individual, and then base that information or that return to duty agreement on those recommendations. So definitely, I think it's important for employers to utilize the appropriate resource.
Yeah, that's very well said. Can't argue with that.
Awesome. So what is a SAP? For those people that are watching, you'll hear that term kind of used in our workplaces, SAP or SAP. So tell me a little bit more about what a SAP is, and really the roots of the SAP and what their role is.
Sure. So a SAP is a qualified substance abuse professional. And there's some confusion out there as to what a SAP is versus what a SAE would be, a substance abuse expert. So I thought maybe I'd just share what some of the prerequisites of a SAP might be, and I'll actually refer to some notes here. So prerequisites to be a SAP would include being a licensed physician, a licensed or certified social worker, licensed or certified psychologist, licensed or certified employee assistance professional, licensed or certified marriage or family therapist, and a drug and alcohol counselor certified by an organization. So, but the key point there is to know that alone does not make you a SAP. So people with those prerequisites can be a substance abuse expert. And the big difference there between a substance abuse expert versus a SAP or a qualified substance abuse professional is the specialized safety component.
Absolutely.
And protecting workplace and public safety versus kind of employee-centered processes unconditionally. So, some other things for people to know here too. So a SAP must also, over and above those prerequisites, they have to have actual direct clinical experience in the addiction field.
Okay.
They have to submit proof of core hours, have clinically supervised hours, They have to complete specialized DOT SAP training, have to pass DOT SAP exam.
I've heard that's a very
which is
difficult exam. I've heard of that.
Yeah, well, I know of some people that struggle to get that for sure. And they have to be knowledgeable about SAP function, like I mentioned, protecting the safety of the traveling public or workplace safety. So they got to be up on DOT, and they got to stay current as well. So, the substance abuse experts, it's good. Maybe people don't know, but like as far as addiction counselor, just to give some information about that, is 99% of addiction counselors, at least in Saskatchewan anyway, I think it's similar in Alberta actually, are not certified. So it's really easy for people to kind of hang a shingle or say that they provide services in these areas. But for employers who are looking for anything that pertains to safety or protecting workplace safety, managing these things, ensuring people are compliant, there could be some value for using a substance abuse professional or those services for sure. DOT qualified SAPs are they're the gold standard for return to duty processes, and are specifically trained to protect workplace and public safety. So unlike SAEs.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of, in that same vein, that's why, from my perspective as a service provider, when I have organizations reaching out to me for support, I like to use an SAP. I have had employers reach out and ask me about using something like a public service. So like Alberta Health Services Addiction Services, or having that employee go to a physician for assessment. And I think while both of those groups have definite benefits and there's things that they're great at and that they focus on, I find that they often don't have the same background with safety sensitive workplaces that you as an SAP would have. So I think that's a really important component, because it isn't just about assessing the individual, right? Obviously that's a key part, but then it's figuring out recommendations for that safe return to work. And you have to have an understanding of safety sensitive workplaces, I think, to do that effectively.
Yeah, I think you said that well. And, I can't speak to the public services, right? Because I still maintain a public practice. Absolutely. As well. And, lots of great services there for what the services are intended for.
Absolutely.
The biggest differences would be, employee-centered services versus safety-centered and safety-sensitive employer-centered services. So
absolutely,
that's differences between the two hats.
For sure. So, yeah, I've had employers who have sent their workers to, say, like Alberta Health Services, public option. And one of the things that we received back was basically, a letter saying, yes, this person attended for an assessment and we recommended some counseling. So, while that's great for the employee, right, the worker, they're actually getting some support, and that's excellent. From the employer perspective, it doesn't really give them any information to help them decide, are we returning this person to work? At what juncture are they going to be safe to return to work? And how do we ensure their safety when they do return? So I think those are great options for things like counseling, right? Where people are going to get education, they're going for support. But I think in terms of actually the assessment and help with return to work, I personally find, using a SAP to be the more effective route for the most part.
Yeah, like I could imagine you'd think as an employer or a human resource professional, situations present themselves, right? And what they might be looking for are an actual framework with more specific information to help them guide, accommodation or support or discipline in a legal fashion.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Thank you so much to Scott for providing that enlightening information about the SAP's role and qualifications. Stay tuned to the next in this interview series, where we'll be talking with Scott again about how the SAP process applies to Canadian employers. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.